Hi, everyone. I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, it is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Today is March 17th. We are on the third Friday of March. I cannot believe this. And I know a lot of you guys have been heartfelt what happened with Silicon Valley Bank and the run of people getting scared and basically just worrying and coming around. I mean, a lot of banks, as you know, they don't carry more than $50,000 on hand. So when a third of the bank requirements were needed to withdraw, they weren't available. And the FDIC from the Federal Reserve said, okay, enough's enough. And they didn't even give them till the end of the day to shut them down. They shut them down immediately. But, the head of the bank, I'm not too keen of, because he actually made a plan to sell shares of the bank. I think it was in late January. So shame on him for not staying with the ship. He really wasn't planning on hanging to help everyone. He was just looking to get his fair share to rip people off, in other words, saying there. Anyway, let's get right into the show. We have a great show here for you tonight. All right, so Mr. Donald Trump. Oh, yes. Haven't talked to him in a while. Well, Mr. Donald Trump, yes, YouTube restores Donald Trump's channel. And you might be saying, gee, why did YouTube restore Donald Trump's channel? And, that's a great question. I think, they probably realized that there was nothing to keep him from broadcasting anymore. And YouTube said basically that they would restore his channel. But it's interesting because, they suspended it following the January 6th attacks on the U.S. Capitol. So interesting, what happened there. And I have to tell you that this is very interesting. And this is a quote that they actually made from the channel. Which is what YouTube, which is owned by Google, said. I quote, "We carefully evaluate the continued risk of real-world violence while balancing the chance for voters to hear equality from major national candidates in the run-up to an election." Close quote. Again, this was said by YouTube, and this was said on a tweet earlier today. And so the channel restoration was first reported by Axios, so they noticed it. And YouTube, as we said, initially suspended it because of the Capitol riot, saying a video on the channel had violated its policy against inciting violence. So Twitter could have a new rival, a platform created by Facebook's parent company. And YouTube had also disabled comments underneath the video on Trump's channel, which appear to have been restored, as I said, on this Friday. So, why does Trump want to come back? I don't know. I think he's got some other political agendas, and we're going to have to sit tight and see what he's going to do, all right? But so for those of you that are wondering, he's back on the air. He's on Facebook, and he's all over the place, and you can start reading his comments against him. So TikTok is to be removed by Scottish Parliament phones and devices. Now, this is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because, we never hear about these companies unless there's a problem, right? We just never hear about them. And the question you're probably saying, because this only Came across news desk literally 2 hours ago. So this is really fresh news that I'm sharing with you guys. As you know, we create the content on the show literally half hour to an hour before the show airs. So you know you're always getting the latest and greatest content when you listen to the JMOR Tech Talk show. So TikTok will be removed from Scottish Parliament phones and devices because of the security concerns. And this was reported by Sky News earlier today. The members of the Scottish Parliament and staff were, quote, strongly advised to remove TikTok included from personal devices used to access the Scottish Parliament's IT systems, the report said, citing in a recent email. And so this is very, very interesting. And so was there more to this, or are they not telling us the entire truth? Because just because they suspect that there could be a potential, that's not enough to suspend an account. Unfortunately, it isn't. And so when we think about why something like this happens, I think we look at past events. Was there damage? Was there, is there any type of impact to society? Did it have a financial loss? Were there any type of major outbursts? The Parliament, they are warning the MSPs to remove TikTok over the security fears. And like I said, it's interesting because the move comes after the UK government banned the app on government-issued phones amid fears of sensitive data being accessed by the Chinese government, with Beijing's embassy in the UK hitting out at the move. And in an email to all the parliamentary staff and MSPs, a senior IT official at Holyrood urged them to remove the app. Quote, "We consider this advice to be proportionate and necessary given the situation as we currently understand it." Close quote. Quoted from the senior Holyrood IT official. But is that enough? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting what's happening. So we're going to have to really, monitor this. I think we're all acting because of fear. And I want to quote something that was recently said, quote, "After discussions with the National Cybersecurity Center, we are strongly advising that all member staff, Parliament staff, and contractors staff remove the TikTok app from any device currently used to access the Scottish Parliament's IT system." Close quote. Quote, "This includes personal devices and Scottish parliamentary corporate body issued devices. We are giving this advice based on a precautionary approach and the best information available to us at this moment, given the concerns around the information the TikTok application can collect from devices." Close quote. So it hasn't done anything, but they're being extremely, how can I say, protective. And are they right to be protective? Um, the question I have with that is, what news has made them make this juncture? They don't share that with us. Do they have clear and concrete evidence? Or is this just something based on a hunch? Now, not that hunches are bad, okay? But, you could have a hunch that something's going to happen, but it might not be even possibly a threat, okay? And so I would just like to know how they came to these deductions, right? How did they come to these deductions? That's my real concern. That's my concern. And so the question you might be asking is TikTok dangerous? Is TikTok a security problem? Well, there was a report published in July 2022 by researchers at Internet 2.0, Australian cyber company, and they cited evidence that the app source code and reported app carries out excessive data harvesting. So TikTok seems to be a problem. And so both the FBI and the Federal Communications Commission have warned that ByteDance could share TikTok user data, such as browsing commissions have warned that ByteDance could do this, and the history, location, and biometric identifiers with China's authoritarian government. What are the risks of being on TikTok? It collects and can include phone numbers, email addresses, locations, and even your contact list. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but parents need to realize if hackers can get access to personal data, they can attempt phishing scams. And yes, they can probably elicit a stalk very easily. So TikTok is hip, but are we just jumping on a bandwagon? We all know that TikTok has its ups, it has its downs. It's had many people, unfortunately, lose their life because of challenges, and they say that they're not responsible. I get it, but what kind of platform actually promotes that kind of activity? So I think we do have to get real. The U.S. military banned its members from using TikTok in 2019. And 2020, the Transportation Authority did as well. And so the question that I have right now is, are the security problems being fixed in TikTok? And I'd have to say the answer is probably no. And so how do I make TikTok very secure? So people say to link a phone number. The problem is that you can turn on two-factor and all that's great. But my concern is, why does the Chinese want your TikTok data? Why do they want it? See, this is what goes through my head. I mean, is there a bigger plan? Is there some other agenda? See, this is a problem. And there's a lot of speculation about it. Okay. But is it true, or are we just becoming hypochondriac? I don't know. So the question is, if I set the security of TikTok, will it still expose my data? The private account means that you must approve people who can follow your account, right? But the question is, can I block what TikTok sees? Can I block what TikTok government sees? I think that's the question. And I believe that if TikTok is doing something that is illegal, okay, then we need to figure out who's going to take it over, because I think this is the whole problem, is that everyone's on TikTok. I have been on it before, that, you know, thinks it's the latest and greatest thing. It's okay. But people on TikTok are not very loyal. And most people that follow you are not even from the United States a lot of times. So what's TikTok about? I think this is going to come out in the wash, not today, not tomorrow, but it's going to come out soon. I can promise you that, because once we have a case in the court, it will be too late. So I give kudos to the security people that are researching this. My whole question is, why did it take so long for you guys to figure this out? See, that's my concern. If it was indeed this much of a violation, why wasn't it restricted years ago? It's not going against our freedom of press or speech. It's protection, right? It's making sure that if it's doing something bad, then we can't allow that. That's like allowing Google or another company to sell links that are illegal. And people do that. When Google finds out about it, they shut them down. They shut them down. So I will tell you that it's definitely a problem. It is definitely a problem. And I know that you're probably saying to me, "Hey, John, do I need to really worry about it?" And I'd say the question to you is, you do have to worry about it, because if you don't worry about it, then what's really going to happen, right? What's going to happen to everything going on? And so by seeing that, right, by seeing what's happening and how things are working, I feel that you're going to know that they might be up to no good. They might be up to no good. And, you're probably saying, "John, what are they going to do with our data? Like, what are they going to do with it?" Um, they probably just want to do intelligence checking on it. Um, they might be trying to grab certain data that they couldn't get. And they might be looking for things that have certain patterns. See, that's what I believe it's about. Um, that's what it's about. Okay. It has to do with that purpose. All right. So the FCC, ladies and gentlemen, is cracking down on spammy text messages. Hallelujah. Um, the Federal Communications Commission is definitely cracking down on spammy text messages with new rules for telecom companies, citing a surge of consumer complaints in recent years tied to unwanted robo-texts. You've gotten these from your local spas, from your hardware store, what have you. All the companies that I own, we don't send texts on anything. We use text for communication with the clients, but we don't send any automated texts. Just human texts that are responding to someone. So the new rule is going to require phone providers to block text messages from suspicious sources, including phone numbers that appear to be invalid, unallocated, or unused. Now, carriers will also have to block text messages coming from phone numbers that claim not to ever send text messages, or the government has identified as numbers not used for texting. This is what the FCC has said. Now, this move is similar to what the U.S. government effort did to shut down illegal robocalls, which led to at least one phone provider being cut off entirely from the U.S. telephone network. Now, robocall monitoring services say the effort has largely been successful at reducing the volume of robocalls. But in recent years, an explosion of spam and scam text messages appear to have taken their place, leading to more than 18,000 consumer complaints at the FCC last year. And the thing is, a lot of people out there are like, "Oh, I get it," and then they still do it because they're going to go make themselves one sale, and they think, "Oh, well, gee, I can gamble on that." Maybe the Fed's got to up the fine costs. Maybe $20,000 is not enough of a fine. I'm just saying. So the FCC is currently debating what they're going to do. They have the do not call registry protections. They're thinking about adding that for text messages for the first time. That'll be new. And the FCC said, and I quote, "It's also considering making it harder for marketers to use a single consumer consent to flood that user with calls and text messages from multiple sources and numbers. Unwanted or scam robotexts can be an even greater risk to consumers than unwanted robocalls." The FCC said, because unlike phone calls, text messages may contain malicious links that can infect a smart device with dangerous software. Scam artists have found that sending us messages about a package you've never ordered or a payment that never went through, along with a link to a shady website, is a quick and easy way to get us to engage on the device and fall prey to, yes, fraud. Close quote, said FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel in a statement. So the FCC has voted to adopt the new rules in unanimous 4-0 decision, which I think that is amazing. And you might be saying to me, "Hey, John, so, when does all this take effect?" I think they're still working on the actual dates right now. But we do have the do not call.gov, and you can report unwanted calls. How do you report unwanted texts? So again, they're still working on this. If you think you've received a political robocall or text that does not comply with the FCC's rules, you can file an informal complaint with the FCC at fcc.gov/complaints. If you are receiving text that you didn't ask for, report the sender by forwarding the text to 7726. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have this show, okay? We want to educate you, but I bet you guys didn't know that you can actually forward a text that could be considered harassing, could be just annoying, to 7726. That's pretty cool, because I think as we get serious and the fines go up higher, I think companies are starting to understand that we're not going to tolerate this. Robocalls were tolerated for so many years. I can tell you now, I do not get any phone calls asking me about the fact that, my car insurance expired or is going to expire next week. I don't get those anymore. And that's actually a good thing, right? And so, again, you can just forward your text to, like I told you, the number spam. So that is pretty cool. Just forward your text to spam, SPAM. And when you do that, you can just copy the message, forward it to, and it helps your wireless provider spot and block similar messages in the future. So what happens is this doesn't go to the FCC. It goes to your provider, and it's hopefully them that will report it to the FCC. But I would still tell you to go to the FCC's website, as I mentioned, and file a report there. I will tell you, in the last year, I knew someone that was sending messages, and suddenly their phone number got blocked. Now, you might say, well, John, I can go get one of these numbers from, what they call them, disposable phone numbers. Well, even these numbers, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be susceptible. I know that when you sign up for a lot of these providers now, they have given the integrity of honor of trust. If they see you starting to abuse it, they will ask you for your license or some other ID and to validate that you have a U.S. phone number. And then they know who your provider is. They also ask you to agree to agreements and things like that. Because I'll tell you what happened. There was a person that I still know, and she was sending out unsolicited messages about her services. She makes some type of, I think it was some type of craft she does. And they were nice, but nobody wanted them, that she was sending them to. And she would send these out like monthly. And so all of a sudden she called me and said, John, I'm having a problem with my phone. And I said, well, can you text me? And she says, no, I can't text anybody. And so I said to her, well, what number are you using? She says, I'm using my disposable number. I said, well, try to text me something from your number. She didn't. It went through. I said, I know what the problem is. She said, what's the problem? So the problem is you have been reported for potentially conducting and sending spammy texts. She said, well, that's crazy. I said, well, did you get the customer's permission or client's permission before texting? No, but I always do this. Yeah, but it's unsolicited. Nobody gave you permission to text them. You should have a document signed if you even want to send monthly specials or something. And if they want to opt out, they should always be able to opt out, whether this is an email, whether this is a text. And people that don't have opt-out instructions, they're also supposed to have their address on the form, okay, that they send you. And many providers like MailChimp and other ones will require that to stay CAN compliant, and a link so that you can opt out. So I feel that this, monitoring of the robo-texts and people that are just sending texts are going to be finding themselves in hot water, because more of these providers, and there's not a lot of providers that do these virtual numbers. Even some of the online systems that you use now will actually be able to detect whether your number is part of a virtual system and not a true phone number. And they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, you cannot use this phone number. So I think that's good. But the fact that the FCC is cracking down, I say kudos to that. I feel that when you market like this, it's marketing below the belt, and it just gives you such a bad reputation. All right, let's move on to something else. Ladies and gentlemen, your car, yes, your car, may be watching you. Huh? What in my car may be watching me? Well, don't worry. A lot of automakers are adding features such as cameras and other types of software and algorithms that can actually track the driver. They can do things such as to nudge the driver, to keep them alert for safety, and make sure that they're driving in a manner that is safe. So I think that's pretty cool. It's not like the data is being sent anywhere, but data from the cars could be used to teach more sophisticated algorithms to recognize when people, say, safely scrolling through cars' infotainment systems during an easy drive on a sunny 4-lane highway. You should never be doing that while you're driving. You should always pull over. So when a driver is trying to multitask, well, that's a recipe for a disaster. Okay. And, it's just not worth it. I always have the philosophy. I always say, you should have waited. And the problem transpires because in America, everyone is so impatient. Why? Because they got to have it now. And if they don't have it now, then they're going to get all angry and all frustrated. But what if your car got into a fender bender? That 30 seconds or that minute that you played around with the radio or try to change your infotainment system, not quite as important, is it? Not when it might put you in the hospital. So my campaign I ran was should have waited. And basically I was in my car and this was all staged and planned in a lot. And then there was a cop car siren that I heard behind me. I threw the phone down and then it went blank and suddenly I appeared in the hospital. I was like, I should have waited. It wasn't that important. And the next time you use your phone, remember to pull over if you're not using Bluetooth. But never get too preoccupied in your conversation because you'll lose track of the road. You might miss an exit. You'll get frustrated. And that could put you at potential risk for a driving hazard. It's not you that's the problem on the road. A lot of times it's the other driver. So don't be that other driver. Be a responsible driver that values not only your own life, but everyone else's life. I think the reason this happens is because so many people that drive are selfish. They only care about themselves. I'm being honest. They care just about themselves. Hey, by the way, everyone, today is March 17th. It is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And I wish the most amazing and best luck of everyone today and all days. That'll be even greater than the most Irish. And I hope that you find that abundant pot of gold at the end of your rainbow. So you might be asking me, hey, John, when did St. Patrick's Day start? Oh, guys, that's a great question. So March 17th. It started in 1631 when the church established a feast day honoring St. Patrick. Now, he had been a patron saint of Ireland who had died around the 5th century and about 12 centuries before the modern version of the holiday was first observed. So you might be saying, John, well, when did it originate? So St. Patrick was born in Britain, not Ireland, to the wealthy parents near the end of the 4th century. And he is believed to have died on March 17th around 460 AD. So the question you might be saying is, hey, John, when did the U.S. start celebrating St. Patrick's Day? I thought you would never ask me that. So in America, St. Patrick's Day is recognized by all these, pretty shamrocks, leprechauns, parades, and all things green, right? Irish soldiers often went to servants in the British Army, brought the holiday to the America as early as 1762. When the first St. Patrick's Day parade was held in New York City. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not already had your Irish Day Fair, definitely go out and try some great Irish food. I know I went out with some friends before because I didn't want to be out in a lot of traffic. But even when I got there, it was around lunchtime. And I got to tell you, there were a lot of people. I went to Shannon Rose, and it was pretty good. Just the parking was a little bit of a nightmare. You had to have a little patience for that. And so, you know, having that corned beef and cabbage is probably the only time I have corned beef and cabbage. And then for dessert, I had this little small chocolate brownie. So it was a really fun afternoon. But, you know, when we think about our world and we think about technology, right? We think about things like, you know, printers, like 3D printers. Did you know that the world's first 3D printed rocket is about to launch? That's mind-blowing. Yeah, it's about to launch. This was in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and it's about the third time that they're going to attempt this. The first two times they had to 86. Relativity Space will try again to launch the world's first 3D printed rocket from Florida's Space Coast. Now, the new launch date is scheduled for March 22nd. The 3-hour launch window opens at 10 p.m. and goes until 1 a.m. at Cape Canaveral's Space Force Station. Quote, nighttime skies mean very cool methane rocket engine plumes. Quote, Relatively Space wrote on Twitter. So I guess they want a very cool evening. So that should be pretty good. And so the thing about this is that this is going to be a real milestone in history. The first launch was attempted on the 15th, but during the countdown, the officials reported problems with the oxygen temperatures in the rocket's second stage. Delays are always inevitable, especially when you're doing something new. The launch is the first orbital attempt for the Terran 1, and it's a big deal in aerospace world because it's taking a simplified and reusable approach to rocket launches. A rocket normally takes 2 years or more to build, but this can now be done in 2 months. Wow. So it stands at 110 feet tall, about 7.5 feet wide, and the Terran 1 is the largest 3D printed object to exist and attempt orbital flight, according to officials. But about 85% of it is 3D printed and uses liquid oxygen and liquid natural gas. Now, scientists say this is only best for rocket propulsion, but also for reusability. But if we blast in the future, no pun intended, it would be the easiest to eventually transition to methane that would be found on Mars. Now, traditional rockets have more than 100,000 parts. This 3D printed rocket has less than 1,000 parts. So there's no payload on board the rocket right now, and the rocket will be a learning experience and may require some tweaking down the road. But if this works, this could change the way we look at space travel. It also might change the cost of going to space. So these are some pretty cool things that we have to look for. Whoever knew that a 3D rocket would be printed? I know you're asking me. So who printed the 3D space rocket? And that's a great question. So it was Relativity Space. It's a California company that wanted to revolutionize the way the world's rockets are built. Its creators use huge 3D printers capable of making massive parts and can print similar rockets, including the engines, in just 60 days. Wow, that is pretty incredible. So you might ask, who 3D prints for SpaceX? Orbex 3D prints its rockets on the same printer type as launcher, the AMCM M4K-4 metal printing platform from EOS, which came out in 2021. Now, the thing about this is that it does take some time, but it doesn't require a lot of human intervention. The machine that prints this thing, oh my gosh, it's a giant. It is so very big. And so we're talking about large scale, very high productivity. They're claiming it to be a 1 meter building height. So what's one meter into feet? Roughly 3.28 feet. But the question is this going to work? Now, it's a robust welded machine frame design, open software for process optimization with high power laser, calibration and overlap adjustment with Smart Cal. And so this means that you could potentially go online and maybe download your own rocket. That could be good and that could be bad. I think there is a market to 3D printing. I'm just concerned that we realize it's not like cranking out cookies or, making 3D, let's say, things out of clay. It's going to require a lot more work. And so now that we understand the mental process and we know some of the pitfalls of how 3D printers work, hopefully, fingers crossed, this should be a very, how can I say, speechless moment. I'm going to say when this rocket takes off. Even if it's not this time, I know they're going to be successful. I just don't know if they've ironed all the kinks out yet. But being able to print a rocket in just a few months, that's astounding. It's astounding. And they can do so much more with medical parts as well. All right, so Neuralink, competitor science, launches new platform to accelerate medical device information. Okay, that's a mouthful. What's this about? So there's a biotechnology startup, Science. They have this new platform, and just started this past Monday. That's going to make it easier for other companies to develop and produce medical devices. Now, the platform is called Science Foundry and allows companies to utilize and build upon science's own internal infrastructure by offering access to more than 80 of its tools and, of course, services. So science is part of growing brain-computer interface, or BCI industry. Now, Science's flagship BCI system is the Science Eye, a visual prosthesis that aims to help patients with two forms of serious blindness restore some visual input to their brains. So this is pretty amazing. And the biotechnology startup and Neuralink competitor Science on Monday aims to, with their startup, to make this easier for other companies to quickly launch what they need to launch in the medical space. Now, the cost of this technology and what it will be to develop medical devices might be prohibited for early stage startups. So Science co-founder and CEO Max Hodak told CNBC in an interview, quote, individual tools can cost anywhere from, you ready, ladies and gentlemen, $200,000 to $2 million. And Hodak said, quote, companies could easily spend hundreds of millions building a manufacturing line. But you have to realize something, ladies and gentlemen. The money is now going to be in the R&D. It's no longer going to be in the manufacturing. So we've had this when we've dealt with molds and things like this, but now it's going to operate more on a premise the way Apple would work, like when they make phones or cases, right? It's going to operate on that premise. And so if we can put something into a 3D world and have a program and we can make changes to that, we're going to be able to get prototypes ready a lot quicker, a lot faster, and in a higher tolerance with consistency every single time. And if something's wrong, it'll be wrong every single time because the fault tolerance is right on. I mean, you're talking like fractions. Pretty cool, right? This is where we're going, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I got some other great news. Now, you remember COVID, right? And being a first responder, we all know that COVID, I don't want to say it's over, but we all know that COVID was a moneymaker, okay? Regardless of all the other politics, we'll put that aside for now. So the COVID national health emergency ends in May. Wonderful. These free benefits will end too. So what does it mean that the COVID national emergency ends in May? So it means that many of the benefits that were in place to emergencies will expire. And so, the national public health emergency is going to end, as we said. And declaring a public health emergency has allowed the U.S. government to provide Americans with COVID-19 treatments, tests, vaccines, and stimulus funds. Now, these benefits minimize the financial hardships and the physical tolls that COVID-19 had taken on the U.S. population. After May 11, 2023, most people will no longer be able to obtain treatments and at-home tests for free without regard to their insurance status. Now, Medicare and Medicaid recipients will no longer have treatments such as monoclonal antibodies covered like they were during the emergency. Medicare recipients will be on the hook for all treatment costs and at-home tests. So the question is, was COVID-19 dragged out to make money? Yeah, yeah. This was something that I believe people thought was being done with the most humility and sincere, I'm going to say, amount of concern for people. But in the process, ladies and gentlemen, several people got greedy, including this. There was a college in New Jersey. I'm not going to mention who they were. And it wasn't them that were ripping us off. They came up with the test. This they called it the not the swab. It was the saliva test. And they were only going to charge $6. Well, by the time it went somewhere else, I mean, if you mark that up to 12 and 24, they were charging almost $100. So they were raping the American people. I mean, everyone you talk to, well, we can't do this because of COVID. We can't put plastic in because of COVID. Oh, this is going to be extra $3,000. Oh, the shipping's, everything's gone up. So, I mean, there's people I know, like my neighbors, that they're like, oh, I got to still wear a mask. Well, we're going to keep doing it forever then. So does the government saying it's over mean that you will stop wearing a mask? I mean, I've stopped, except when you go to medical facilities, right? Does this mean, yes, that probably masks will not be required in medical offices? So after May, masks won't be needed in medical. Face masks will no longer be required in hospitals and other care facilities. So this is interesting. So they have already made this mandate in New York. Okay. When is it going to happen in New Jersey? They've already stated that they're not required, but I can't tell you that they're totally getting rid of it until May 29th. But again, when you see the way of the world changing, the rules just kind of kept morphing as we went along. And not that they didn't know what was going on, but they really didn't know what was going on. And this idea of coming out with a vaccine every year, I mean, this is just preposterous, right? It's a cold. And again, not to talk about how it came into the world and who to blame and all that stuff. That's a whole other discussion for another day. I just feel that when this happened, the proper R&D, research and development, the analysis, the studies, they were never conducted. It was all, well, this is what we need to do. We got the companies on board. They started telling these people to make this, make that. And the companies were charging so much money for these vaccines. And the government was having to pay for them. And you know who pays for the mix? All of us. Comes out of our taxes. Now, was there really an emergency? Yes, there was. But did it need to be dragged out as long as it was? No way. It was dragged out to make money. Let me say this again. So COVID-19, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just being honest with you. COVID-19 could have ended earlier. It could have. It was dragged out to make money. That's what it was dragged out for, ladies and gentlemen. It caused big crises in the economic industry. And when these benefits disappear, do people suddenly have amnesia and be like, oh, what COVID? So this almost reminds me like the people that, you know, you see, you go to court and you see them, they have this neck brace. And they're fine in the accident. You see this on TV, and then suddenly they're wearing the neck brace, but then when they get out of the courtroom, you just see them just take it off real quick and the neck's fine. They're lying. So I don't believe any of the government, to be honest with you. That's the truth. And I feel that we as citizens need to make our own decisions, okay, and live the life that we choose. They try to tell us what's best for us, but I'll be honest with you. No one knows what's better than for you than you. Of course, you can check with your doctors and other places, but no one knows the best thing for your life but you. You know how you are. You know how you respond, whether I'm talking about allergies, whether I'm talking about a cold or anything. You know how your body works. You're not 5 years old. And so, if you understand this, then, ladies and gentlemen, you will realize that the world got socked for so much money on COVID cleaning fees, everything having to do with COVID. So we're probably going to be able to put the word COVID-19 in, let's say, a dormant state, hopefully for a long time. Because I think they realized that having this active was just depleting the financial resources of our country. And you know, it's a mindset. The more we focus on something, the more it will persist. So the more we don't give it attention, guess what? The more it probably will not persist. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am by now? I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Hey, listen, I invite you to check out believemeachieve.com, scan that QR code, check out IFYL podcast with near almost close to 600 episodes every day. And actually, it's every day, but we have 600 podcasts episodes with it being daily. And also check out WTBQ, which is my weekly Inspirations for Your Life Drive Time radio show. You can learn more about that on WTBQ.com under weekly programming for Tuesday. And just love you to check out all this amazing content because, you know, you can have knowledge and you can share it, but it's the people that choose to apply that knowledge to their lives and others that will become successful. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It has been an amazing privilege and pleasure to be with you this fantastic Friday. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Like, love, support the channel. Comment below. Tag your friends, colleagues, and associates. Share this out with everyone you know on social media. Go to my YouTube channel, John Space C, Space MOLY, Space Serial Entrepreneur. Look for that key phrase to help keep our content free. Make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a cup of coffee, a bowl of fruit, or a delicious plate that has a nice piece of cake on it. Either way, we'll be grateful with those pennies and dollars. We'll invest them into new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, even new facilities to give you the most jaw-dropping, impactful content to change your life. Are you ready to start living the life you've been waiting for? See you next week, everyone. Unless you see me on another show first. Take care, everyone.